A reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said, "A disciple is not above the teacher, nor a slave above the master. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher, and the slave like the master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they malign those of his household? So have no fear of them. For nothing is covered up that will not be uncovered, and nothing secret that will not become known. What I say to you in the dark, tell in the light. And what you hear whispered, proclaim from the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. And even the hairs of your head are all counted. So do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who acknowledges me before others, I also will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before others, I also will deny before my Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. On this Father's Day, we are met with a very challenging gospel reading. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father and a daughter against her mother. At least in Matthew's version, we have the gentler language of whoever loves father and mother more than me, rather than Luke's harsh language of whoever does not hate father and mother. So what do we do with Jesus' words today? If your family is anything like mine, then you may be feeling some of this kind of tension in this moment. The politically charged and anxiety-producing times are causing dissonance in my family. As the younger generations are carrying hope into the streets, and the older generations are questioning the manner in which change is being ushered into the world. I have argued with my parents in recent weeks, and it is certainly not a peaceful time in anyone's life right now. A week or so ago, one of my summer school students missed a portion of our class to have photos taken in front of the Robert E. Lee Monument. She is a 14-year-old African-American ballerina who felt called to make an artistic statement in this important moment in time, and the photographs have spread widely and even internationally over the internet. You've probably seen them. For me, seeing these photos carried me back in time to my own 14-year-old ballerina self. I too was impassioned for social justice, and I spent the summer before my freshman year in the Soviet Union with a nonprofit organization called Peace Child, a group that included 15 American youth and 15 Soviet youth who traveled across Russia performing to promote justice and peace in the world. Interestingly, at the end of our time together, we flew out of Moscow in August of 1991, 2 days before the coup that collapsed the Soviet Union. When I returned home from my trip and visited my grandparents in Alabama, I was so excited to share my experience and sang songs from our performance to my family. One song was titled "Black is Beautiful," and it arose from the Black is Beautiful movement of the 1960s. A few weeks after I returned home to Virginia from Alabama, I received a letter from my grandmother. She was very concerned that I might decide to marry a Black man, since I so enjoyed singing about Black being beautiful. At first, I thought how silly. I was 14 and marriage was the furthest thing from my mind. But then I became sad. What if I did grow up and fall in love with a Black person? Would my family not support our marriage? I was briefly distraught, but teen life being so busy, I moved on and forgot all about it. But then in college, I had a similar experience. As a religious studies student, I discovered Buddhism and completely fell in love with the Tibetan tradition. Because I was in an advanced level Tibetan Buddhism class, I was able to meet the Dalai Lama when he came to campus for a Nobel laureate conference. Once again, I traveled to Alabama to visit my grandparents, and I was so excited to share all that I had learned about Buddhism. Sure enough, a few weeks later, I received a letter from my grandmother expressing her concern that I would turn away from the one true faith, Christianity. My grandmother loved me, and I loved her. What I came to realize over the years was that the root of her concerns was fear. And fear has an important place in today's gospel reading as well. Before Jesus speaks about bringing a sword and setting family members against each other, he speaks about fear. And as it's stated in so many biblical passages, Jesus says, "Do not be afraid." It is when fear becomes our master rather than God that we lose sight of the truth that even the hairs of your head are all counted. My grandmother feared that she would lose me to things that were out of her comfort zone. And she feared this because she loved me. But Jesus reminds us today that all of us are counted by God, no matter where we stand politically, where we find our inspiration in life, and no matter whom we choose to love. If we fail to recognize this truth, then we face turmoil again and again and again. Jesus shows us that our answer to fear includes the recognition of the illusion of human power, even power that includes the threat of death. He says, "Do not fear those who kill the body." The answer to fear includes an awareness of the challenges that the gospel necessarily produces. Yes, we will face family trials. Most importantly, the answer to fear includes the deep awareness that God is present in this world every day in mercy and compassion, drawing us through the stages of turmoil into a final peace that passes all understanding. A peace that I sense deeply from my grandmother who has gone on to God and reaches out to me with a gracious depth of understanding that transcends time and space. And through this connection, I too can overcome fear. Thanks be to God. May we all do the same. Amen.